Locked On Cowboys, your daily Dallas Cowboys podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Locked on Cowboys. Locked on Cowboys.
Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast, presented by Get Upside. Just download the free Get Upside app and use promo code TOUCHDOWN to get 25 cents per gallon or more cash back on your first tank. I am Marcus Mosher. He is Landon McCool. And I got to tell you guys, if the show today is anything like the pre-show where Landon is just ranting, you guys are in for a treat. So Landon, how you doing today, sir?
I was doing fine until you got me all worked up with the topic before we got into the actual podcast. I mean, I thought we were going to get in here and today was going to be kind of a nice and easy. We talk about some Cowboys news, we talk about the future, and now you've got me all worked up about Hall of Fame voting. And let's get into it.
Yeah, let's get into it. So we're not going to do this for very long, but tonight they're going to announce the 5 Hall of Famers for the 2022 class. And DeMarcus Ware is one of those candidates, and it's a pretty strong class. There's some really good candidates. But I saw this morning, Landon, that Todd Archer said there's a chance that DeMarcus Ware is not a first ballot Hall of Famer. And your thoughts, if that were to happen, are?
Before I unleash, let's go ahead and be clear that this is not Todd Archer's opinion. Todd's just reporting, what he's saying. So
Todd made it pretty clear that the best 3-4 outside linebacker of the last 30 years should probably be in the Hall of Fame.
Let's not go march over to Todd's timeline and destroy it with this because he's just reporting. All right. Having said that, this is the most ridiculous thing I think I've ever heard about any Hall of Fame vote ever. The fact that DeMarcus Ware is not a first ballot Hall of Famer is absolutely ridiculous. And it shows what a sham and ridiculous process this is constantly. And how they keep constantly missing folks that need to be in the Hall of Fame because there's this ridiculous set of criteria that's just completely made up and frankly, varies from voter to voter. And it leads to the kind of thing that potentially has DeMarcus Ware not as a first ballot Hall of Famer. Like what kind of messed up process is there that could potentially lead you to that? I whether it's the you can't tell the story of the history of the NFL without him. DeMarcus Ware joined the team to help Von Miller drag the corpse of Peyton Manning across the finish line to win a Super Bowl. There's your story that had to be told that year. I just can't sit here and abide by these Hall of Fame voters kind of dithering on whether or not one of the greatest pass rushers in the history of the game is worthy of being in the Hall of Fame in the first ballot. I cede the rest of my time. I rest my case, Your Honor.
So I'll give you a little bit of background information on how this Hall of Fame voting works. So they get these 15 names after they narrow them down. And then they get into a room and somebody makes a presentation for a player. I don't know who made the DeMarcus Ware presentation, but they do it in front of the entire room. They listen, and then they vote. And I've heard, and you should go listen to the Power Ranking show with Elliot and I because he is a Hall of Fame voter, that a lot of the times how the guys are based on the presentation, basically the PowerPoint that's presented to them. Not based on their career, but which presentation is the best. It's not always the best strategy.
That's not great, guys.
Best teams in. I will say this with DeMarcus Ware. He made the Hall of Fame All 2000s team. He was a 4-time All-Pro selection. He won a Super Bowl. So feels pretty clear cut to me. In his first 111 games in the NFL, he had like 107 sacks. I don't know, Lan. This one feels it feels like this should be a shoe-in, and we don't even have to talk about it, right?
Yeah, that's why I'm yelling on our TV screens right now. Is because this, it's crazy because it's the most NFL thing ever, right? In much in the same way that you have all these players like train intensely and try to squeeze every advantage out of every single crevice that they possibly can, and then you put them in a game in which it gets decided by a bunch of amateur referees who kind of half butt what they're doing. Much like this, right? Like these guys have these incredible careers. They put their lives on the line in a lot of ways. They put their health on the line to kind of reach for glory. And then ultimately it comes down to a bunch of writers sitting in a room based on whether or not the PowerPoint presentation was good enough.
Well,
I don't
the
know,
other
man.
thing
Like,
is these meetings are long. These are like 10
Yeah.
to 12-hour meetings, and it
Yeah.
might just depend on when your meeting, like when your presentation is. If you're at the very end,
Jerry Kramer may be asleep by the time you
Yeah.
get to the end of the presentation. You know?
yeah,
Jerry
I
Kramer's
mean,
dead, but,
listen,
yeah.
I know for a fact that there's been guys that have left to go get lunch or whatever during the middle of presentations because they just don't want to hear it. So, yeah, let's go over the
Again,
15 guys really quickly.
Yeah,
I kind of want your thoughts on who you'd want to see in.
Mm-hmm.
There's Jared Allen, Willie Anderson, Rondé Barber, Tony Baselli, Leroy Butler, Devin Hester, Torrey Holt, Andre Johnson, Sam Mills, Richard Seymour, Zach Thomas, DeMarcus Ware, Reggie Wayne, Patrick Willis, and Bryant Young. Two former Cowboy greats, DeMarcus Ware and Zach Thomas on there.
Yeah. I don't know if Zach Thomas is exactly a Cowboys great, but yeah, I mean, he was a great player who also played for the Cowboys. I will agree with that. I mean, it's a solid group. I do think that there are tiers within that group, though, of like who needs to be let in first and who, kind of can
Who are
hold the
your
door
locks?
while they're waiting. If they,
Who are your locks out of that list?
Well, I mean, just off of what I remember, what you listed, Tony Baselli, DeMarcus Ware, I think Holt is a no-brainer.
Probably should be. Yeah.
Yeah.
Baselli should have been in a long time ago, but I get why
for
he's had to
sure.
wait.
Who else is on there?
Rondé Barber?
Yeah, okay. I don't
think he's a lock or anything.
Yeah, I don't think he's a lock, but I think he will definitely end up in there because he was a large part of that. I mean, look, if John Lynch is in the Hall of Fame, all these guys and then like another list of 25 guys need to be in this year. I won't even
really
get
don't
into
like John Lynch.
I just know that he's about a third the player that Darren Woodson is. And frankly, we can talk about Leroy Butler being not the player that Darren Woodson is too, but we don't need to do that. I mean, I think all of this is a sham until Darren Woodson gets in, as far as I'm concerned.
I know for a fact that it was very close last year between Charles Woodson and Leroy Butler, both getting into the Hall of Fame. Basically, voters were having to choose between those two. And Butler didn't get in, but he was like the last guy not to get in. So it wouldn't surprise me if he gets in.
Choice. That's a ridiculous choice, right? Seriously? Between Charles Woodson and Darren, I mean, what are we doing here? Like, Leroy Butler was a very good safety, but Charles Woodson is like generational defensive player, like generational football player. I mean, I don't know, man. Like, it's sometimes I feel like they really just they make this process so much stupider than it needs to be. It's so much dumber than it needs to be. And again, like clearly if it's like they mean to take it serious. That's why they hold it with such reverence. But at the same time, like what usefulness are you getting out of 12 hours of PowerPoint presentations? Just it's embarrassing.
Go listen to the again. I'm about to pump out another podcast today. We did an hour on this a few months ago, and Elliot really broke down how this whole process works and why it's kind of ridiculous the way that it is. Yeah. DeMarcus Ware is getting it. Let's be honest. There's no way that he can't get in.
It's just so dumb.
It's
God,
dumb.
this is so dumb.
All right, let's take a quick break so we can tell you guys about Get Upside. Our listeners are earning cash back for every single gallon of gas every time they fill up. Just download the free Get Upside app in the App Store or Google Play right now. Use promo code Touchdown for 25 cents per gallon or more on your first fill up. Cash back. Don't pay full price at the pump anymore. Get cash back using Get Upside. Just download the app for free and use promo code Touchdown for 25 cents per gallon or more on your first tank. Some people who drive a lot are making as much as $200 to $300 a year in cash back, and there's no catch. The cash back gets added right to your account You can cash out anytime to your bank account, PayPal, or e-gift card. Just download the free Get Upside app and use promo code Touchdown to get 25 cents per gallon or more cash back on your first tank. That is promo code Touchdown. All right. The other NFL honors are tonight, and that's when we're going to find out who is the NFL MVP, Offensive Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year. We're going to talk about the Rookie of the Year stuff, but before we do that, if you had an MVP vote for just the entire NFL, who would you vote for this year?
Yeah, I mean, this year's so tough, right? Like it felt like the race kind of was going up and down between 3 or 4 different people at different points.
I think I would go Brady. I think.
I guess. I mean,
It's going to be Rodgers, I'm pretty sure, but I think it's probably Brady for me.
I don't know that Rodgers had, such a fantastic
No.
year, honestly.
It was a typical Aaron Rodgers year, but I think last year he was better.
Yeah, I definitely agree on that. Yeah, I mean, if you're not going to give it to like anyone other than a quarterback, then I guess we're selecting between these guys, and I guess Tom Brady. I mean, it's just uninspiring, honestly. It's like,
doesn't this year feel like a good year to give it to a non-quarterback though?
Yeah,
you have good options.
Give it to Aaron Donald. Like,
sure.
just do it. Like, I don't know the numbers off the top of my head. I just know that he's the best football player in the NFL.
Or give it to like Cooper Kupp, who had an
incredible
year.
He had an incredible year. Yeah, like Cooper Kupp, like considering, how under the radar, how good his season is. Like, he's not under the radar. Everyone knows who Cooper Kupp is, I think, at this point, if you follow football. But I think it's under the radar just how extraordinary of a season he had this year in the history of the pantheon of great wide receiver seasons. So yeah, sure, absolutely, give it to Cooper Kupp. He certainly is deserving of it. Yeah, I don't want to. I mean, I guess obviously I'm picking Rams because I'm #1 Rams fan, as everyone knows here in Los Angeles. So I'm only picking Rams. But I think you probably couldn't go wrong with picking either one of those two. I will say this though. I can't consider Matthew Stafford as part of this conversation, which, I think he had a good year as a quarterback, but I don't know that he's the most valuable player.
I agree. All right, let's get to the actual awards that matter. Defensive Rookie of the Year. This is pretty clearly Micah Parsons. The question is, will he win Defensive Player of the Year? And should he? If you had a vote, would you vote him as the Defensive Player of the Year?
I probably would, because I'm giving MVP to Aaron Donald, right? So if I'm giving MVP to Aaron Donald and that frees up Defensive Player of the Year, then yes, I probably would give it to Micah Parsons. Otherwise, no, I think it's probably Aaron Donald. I also think that TJ Watt is very much in the running there, though I don't think he's as deserving this year as potentially Parsons and Donald are.
I agree. I think. Parsons had one of the most interesting seasons that we've seen, considering all the different positions he played, how productive he was. I still think Aaron Donald's the best player on defense in the world, and I'm not sure it's close. And I know his stats don't necessarily reflect that of like TJ or compared to like TJ Watt or Parsons, but man, he's just the best player I've seen on defense in a long time.
I mean, he's consistently getting triple teamed.
Yeah.
Triple teamed. Like, I saw a quote the other day from him that said something to the extent of, what was the main difference that you saw when Von Miller came to the team? And he said, I saw, instead of 3 people, I saw 2 people. Which is just like going from where he did to 3 people full-time to only 2 people full-time. Like, most people never even get triple teamed, even the best players in football, and he's consistently triple teamed. So.
He's absolutely incredible. So one more award, Comeback Player of the Year. I thought going into this year, it was Dak's award to lose.
Absolutely.
But I actually don't think he's going to get it. I don't. I think Joe Burrow's going to get it.
I do too.
Does he deserve it?
Yeah, I think so. I think they both deserve it. So the problem is only one of them is going to get it.
Yeah.
And Joe Burrow's in the Super Bowl and has had incredible career, this incredible season this year. Both of them had incredible seasons coming off of gruesome injuries. I don't think that by saying that Joe Burrow is going to win it means that I think that Dak deserves it any less. I think Dak deserves it just as much as Burrow does. But I also understand the optics of the fact that Joe Burrow is playing in the Super Bowl this year. And that's probably the reason he'll get the award.
All right. We have just a couple other little things that I want to touch on really quickly, but let's take a quick break before we do that so we can tell you guys about Bet Online. BetOnline.net remains the best spot for all your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. And it's not just football. BetOnline has up-to-the-minute info on pro and college hoops, NHL, boxing, UFC, along with live real-time updates of current games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the new and amazing offers available for the 2022 season. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, I've got
real quick. Did you put any money down on any of the prop bets for the Super Bowl this year?
I did. 5-1 odds on will there be a successful 2-point conversion.
And you put 4?
Yeah, I think it's going to happen. Right, these are two pretty aggressive head coaches with good quarterbacks. Why not?
I think that's a pretty good bet. I agree.
How about at 25-1 an offensive lineman to score a touchdown?
Ooh, that could be some good money. Yeah, especially considering the uptick is happening so much around the league. That certainly is something putting a little money down on would be worth it.
Yeah, and we saw last year, Tom Brady throw a pass to Joe Hag in the end zone. He dropped it. So it's always fun. Like once you get down to the 1 yard line,
anything can happen at that point.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's a lot of fun.
I like that.
All right, couple quick news things. Micah Parsons said he had a hyperextended knee that he hurt in the Rams practice that bothered him all year. Can you imagine what he's going to do if he's fully healthy next year, Landon?
No, because I couldn't imagine what he did when I thought he was fully healthy this year.
Yeah.
I do. That was funny when that news broke, though, because I remember it. I remember the moment he went down and we all held our breath and he was holding his knee and then he just popped back in, was back in the game, but or back in the practice. But I'm pretty sure it was even televised on the well, it was they had that was the blue-white scrimmage practice, right? Was the televised practice between the Rams. So I'm pretty sure that they even kind of if they hadn't shown it, then I think I just had seen it anyways. But I definitely remember when it happened. And definitely remember kind of brushing it off because Parsons got right back into practice and we never heard anything about it again. And it's just shocking that he's had a bum knee this whole time. Yep. Like, that's just ridiculous.
Pretty crazy. Other knee news for the Cowboys. Michael Galp officially undergoing ACL surgery today. It's only been 2 months basically since he's injured that ACL. Does that concern you at all?
I mean, again, like what we keep on hearing is that it's supposed to be pretty regular, I guess, because they're waiting for swelling to go down before they could commit the surgery. It does seem like a long time, like we pointed out. It does seem, despite what they've told us that this is a normal amount of time, this seems longer than what I remember for these sort of timelines for when the surgeries get done, but. It could be that he had more swelling than normal. So, I don't love that it happened so late. I don't love that it's so, it's what is it now? Like a month and a half or 2 months? Almost?
He injured it week 17 of the regular season. So you're talking about was that January 1st or something around there?
Yeah. I mean, was one of those things where if it wasn't for the swelling, you'd have a little bit more lead time going into the surgery, but a little bit less lead time, I guess, but so it's unfortunate, but it also sounds like it's kind of it's not like a setback. It's not a setback. There's nothing to worry about, guys. No reason to worry, but I think it's just one of those things where unfortunately the swelling took a little bit longer to go down, and now it's going to kind of just delay his recovery a little bit.
I'm still a little worried about it because we are 6 months away from training camp, less than 6 months away from training camp. It's not a long time. I mean, it's going to come up pretty quickly. And we typically see it takes these guys until, month 11, month 12 before they really start to look like themselves again. So I don't know. All right, next one. The Cowboys officially hired Robert Prince to be their new wide receiver coach. I saw today that Adam Henry, their old wide receiver coach, actually backed out of a deal with the Giants, which is a little interesting. But I actually didn't know a lot about Robert Prince before the Cowboys hired him. However, he's got Boise State connections, so I guess it makes a bunch of sense. He's been an NFL coach for a long, long time. Other than that, I don't know much about him.
Yeah, I know that when he was with Detroit, they called him the CEO, the Chief Energy Officer. So I think he has like a high voltage personality at the very least, and is probably all a ball of energy, which I feel like the wide receiver core might need. I mean, they feel like they've been a little bit sleepy at different points during the season. So I think that's not the worst thing. I am very, just kind of fascinated by the Paul situation though, because he turned. You mentioned that he turned down a job
today. Adam Henry. He turned down
Adam Henry. Sorry, yeah.
They turned down the Giants job.
So he turned down the Giants job, and this is after he turned down the Cowboys job. Like, because the Cowboys initially made an offer for him to come back, from what I understand. So he's turned down 2 of these jobs. I'm wondering where, like, is he retiring or what the deal is? I mean, it doesn't really matter to the Cowboys, but it is kind of just fascinating that he got 2 job offers and turned them both down.
Noteworthy that that Robert Prince was the offensive coordinator for Kellen Moore at Boise State. So.
Yeah, I did see that. Yeah, I mean, again, like, I think if you go back to like Boise State, it felt like they gave Kellen Moore basically carte blanche, as much as carte blanche as a college quarterback is going to get, right, at the line of scrimmage. So I have a feeling that they had a very kind of different type of coordinator and quarterback, especially for college, right? A different kind of relationship than most college quarterbacks and college coordinators did, because there probably was a larger, level of mutual respect because of, Kellen Moore came into college, son of a coach, very, very, very high football IQ. So I'm assuming that they were probably operating on very similar levels at that point.
All right. We'll have to learn more about him. I'm sure we'll get to see some press conferences from him. We'll get to see his work at training camp. I'm excited to see somebody new in there. And the last thing I have for us, Landon, Rod Marinelli retired today. 72 years old. Yeah, he did. So the Raiders got, obviously, whole new coaching staff. He's 72. He probably didn't feel like moving and going somewhere else. So Rod Marinelli decides to move on.
Hell of a coach, man. I mean, and a hell of a guy too. I mean, just everything that you've heard from everybody, just a incredible influencer of young men for, 3-4 plus decades, right? Maybe 5. I mean, if you go back to his college days, some people may or may not know this about me, but I actually lived in Tampa during the not this last Super Bowl run, obviously, but the run in the early 2000s, and Marinelli, we used to see him at this restaurant that we would go to every once in a while, and he was always so accommodating to everybody. We would come up to him and just so friendly. Always talked really quietly. Just always,
which is funny. You listen to him at practice, right?
Yeah, at practice, at training camp is the best, right? Because it's like he was stop throwing things. You see people, you see the press surrounding him, right? And he can't turn his neck very well, right? Because I think it's because of the whatever injury he may have had, like probably from as a vet, right? And so like he does this kind of, he's whispering a little bit. And he's, oh yeah, thanks. And then what's that? Yeah, okay, cool. It's just I'll have that memory of just this small kind of hunched over, hobbled man who just had this incredible power and influence over these dangerous, terrifying defensive linemen, and he captured their attention, and they listened to him like he was their parent. So just what a career, what a teacher of defensive lineman technique. Hats off to him, and I hope he enjoys his retirement.
Did you know that Rod Marinelli was a California kid growing up?
Yep, I did actually. He was a Cowboys fan, if I'm not mistaken, when he was younger, because I think, if I remember correctly, he used to go out to Thousand Oaks I think he was actually. Was he actually a coach at the college at Thousand Oaks or something like that? And he would go out as
Rosemead. Is that a school close to you?
Yeah, well, that Rosemead's a town not far out of Los Angeles. I think it's kind of close. So I think that there was some kind of connection where he was like a TA or something at a college. So he actually had some early connections to the Cowboys, like very, very, very early in his career, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, so he coached at Cal. Oh gosh, from 1983 until 1991 there.
So he's been basically coaching my entire life.
Well,
he
he
just
started
short of that, right?
He started being a defensive line coach in 1973.
Yeah, that's before I was born. So he's been coaching longer than I've been alive. And again, the fact that he was able to exert influence and to capture the attention of men that were 21, 22 years old coming into the league at the age of 72, that just shows you the kind of talent he has and the ability to connect with younger players. Yeah. It's really impressive.
And I'm thinking about all the defensive linemen that he's developed. Like, start with the
Hall of Famers. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I'm thinking like what he did for like Max Crosby over the last 2 years is incredible. Then he worked with DeMarcus Lawrence, and he actually worked with DeMarcus Ware a little bit. And then the guys with the Bears and with Tampa Bay and Simeon Rice,
Simeon Rice and Warren Sapp and Booger McFarland and
Taco Charlton. So many great defensive.
Taco Charlton, I love, is really well done. Come on, the guy's retiring.
I know.
Don't smack
it's
him
one
on the way
flaw on his resume. Otherwise, he's been just an incredible coach.
Yeah, as far as a teacher goes, he's just one of the best, and there's a reason that he was in high demand for, like we said, 40 plus years.
Yeah, incredible. I'm gonna miss him. He was a really, really good coach, and 72 years old. That's quite a career, though. All right, that is it for today's show. Thank you guys for tuning in. Tomorrow we'll be back with our Super Bowl preview. You're not gonna want to miss that. We also have a special little segment for you guys tomorrow that you're gonna want to watch.
Boy.
So download the show wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. Follow us on YouTube. You can follow the show on Twitter at Locked On Cowboys. You can follow Landon at McCool BCB, and I'm at Marcus _Mosher. And we'll see you next time.